What's going on, everybody? Got a show for you today. So what we just saw today was an arrest over in Europe. Prince Andrew has been arrested, not for pedophilia or any of the other things that really didn't show up in the Epstein files whatsoever, as far as other people taking part in anything like that. He was arrested for sharing sensitive information with Epstein, but that didn't stop Thomas Massie, small m, capital A, SSIE, from celebrating and claiming that he was responsible for it. When in reality, we heard that Pam Bondi and others said that there were other investigations regarding the files. They didn't specify as to what. Everybody just assumed that it was for the, fake tips and so on that people were giving. And so he was arrested for sharing basically, I'm guessing, state secrets with Epstein, trying to be a buddy. And there you have it. So we have an arrest. Is that good enough for everybody? Nope, not at all. Now they're making memes. Nobody in America's been arrested. Well, there's nothing that's actionable in any of these files. It turned out that, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who were accused of being turncoats, were actually right. And most people who are sane and have a functioning brain and don't suck conspiracy bullshit all day long actually know this. Michael Tracy, I think his name's Michael Tracy. He's doing a great job. He's followed this case when none of these Democrats gave two shits about the Epstein files. He was reporting on it and so on. And they've attacked him nonstop. He's not a Trump supporter by I don't think, any stretch of the imagination. He criticizes Trump all the time about things he could have said better, done better, or whatever. He's made it clear Trump didn't do anything wrong, as nobody else that we know of. So having said all that, it makes sense why you're seeing desperate things like this. Let me get this brought up for you really quick. This is what Democrats are doing currently with your children in schools. So they've been doing these mass protests using actual high school, grade school, and younger, all the way down to, like first grade, for protesting against ICE. So this is what happened with one of these protests today, I guess today.
A student participating in a walkout at Palm Beach Lakes High School was hit by a car along North Military Trail. That child was rushed to the hospital and is expected to be okay.
And as tensions flared up, separate protest sites across our area, cameras capturing two people here. A man and a woman, appears to be maybe a student, struggling with police as officers tried to control the growing crowds.
A student participating.
So there you have it. They're literally, at this point, using your children, well, not mine is homeschooled, to fight their own battles that they're already losing on the narrative for. They're just losing. They're losing across the board on this narrative. Everybody's happy with the border. Everybody's happy with the deportations. Now, granted, you do have some people who won't allow this type of thing in school. This principal here prevented one of these events, and I'm sure he'll be demonized for it. This is from Right Angle News Network. Breaking: a Pennsylvania principal, Daniel Weber of Wilson High School, is receiving widespread recognition after shutting down an anti-ICE walkout at his school by threatening suspension for all students involved. So let's take a look at this.
We'll go back to class and we're good. If you stay out here, we will get your names. You will be suspended. Okay? That is your option at this point, because you are operating outside the bounds of what was granted. That event was canceled. You left school without permission. Your rights do not supersede the school. So if you understand that, that is your option. If you wish to return, Dr. Damiani will let you in that door over there. If not, I will be getting your names. You will be suspended, okay? Those are your options.
What are we doing?
All right? Your rights do not exceed that of the school. We'll go back to.
And that's the actual truth. I've brought this up on past shows when I was, still Stop and Think News and the Joe Alexander Show. When you sign your kids up for school, you sign your kids over to school, and their rights and your rights go out the window after you choose to do that. That's just a fact. That's why when there's an accusation against you, let's say, the CPS generally goes to the school first to talk to your kids, because the school is at that point considered their guardian until they get dropped off at your driveway, at your front door, wherever. Leave school grounds to walk home. The school is their guardian. So, for all the parents that are ticked off that they have their kids in public school and that they're letting their kids do this, even if they don't want them to, you've got to keep that in mind. I do think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits against schools for this type of thing. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out because it's kind of a double-edged sword. When you're at work and your kid's at school, there has to be a guardian. You're not there to be their guardian. Therefore, every liberal teacher and not liberal teacher or principal or whatever that is in that school is therefore their guardian until they leave. From the moment that you drop them off. These are the facts. That's how it works. Now, that makes sense because if your kid gets hurt in gym class or your kid gets sick at school or, anything happens, gets in a fight, so on and so forth, that's something that you would take care of if you were a parent and it happened off school grounds. They're now in charge of, and they have to get a hold of you and take care of your kid until you can get out of work and come get them. And that's kind of how it should be, but at the same time, they abuse that privilege that they have, don't they? And we've seen it time after time with these protests. So, I don't know what the solution would be. You can't say, "Oh, the school can't be in charge of my kids when they're at the school," because how would that make sense? But at the same time, there has to be a better balance. As to how it works. If they're gonna be okay, how do I put this? If you have your kids at home and you're not feeding them and you're not taking care of them, right? You're held responsible. These teachers who are allowing these kids to go out in the street and get run over by cars, get into fights. I think there was a kid that got stabbed or something by another kid, maybe a week ago or two. These teachers should be held responsible just like you would. If they're going to be their guardians, they need to be held responsible just like you would. So that's how that works, And, I just wanted to step back for a moment too and point out one thing about the UK. We saw the Prince Andrew thing and people were celebrating, "Oh, they arrested a pedophile, blah, 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 blah." Not reading the article. This is where we are in society. You got these influencers. Everything is capital lettered in that word except for the RS, influencers. They are there to influence you. Most of them get paid by groups that you don't even know about behind the scenes to push narratives. They have websites that they log. I've shown you guys how this works. They have websites that they log into every day. They get their talking points. They get their narratives. They check the people that run them, that pay them. They check all social media platforms. They see what's trending, including X, and they spin the narrative. They write it up, and these people have to do their own version of that. That's why when Big Soda was paying these people to push the narrative about how big, soda should be on food stamps, EBT, whatever, they got caught because they were they were saying the exact same thing. We saw it with Democrats numerous times. We've seen it with these so-called MAGA influencers who aren't MAGA. They turned on Trump many times at important times during his first term when they were paid to do so. They're doing it now. Okay. Steve Bannon, as a matter of fact, runs some of these groups, and Steve Bannon is one of the ones that was in the Epstein files being just as shady as any of these Democrats, and none of them are calling him out, not because they're all getting paid by Steve Bannon. Not that I don't even know her name at this point. None of them are calling it out, okay? And some of them have defended themselves for not calling it out. People are noticing because people tend to notice things. But my point is that meanwhile, while people are celebrating the arrest of Prince Andrew for being arrested for pedophilia, even though it was for sharing state secrets, this is what's actually going on in the UK. Court archive revealing extent of grooming gang scandal to be deleted. HM Courts and Tribunal Service accuses the service of unauthorized sharing of data, but critics say vital evidence would be lost forever. So because these are Muslim grooming gangs, they're going to delete all the evidence. Meanwhile, over here, you've got people celebrating for the arrest of somebody that they're calling a pedophile who didn't get arrested for being a pedophile. Do you see the disconnect that's in society right now? Massey and Hokana and all these idiots forced the release of these files in a short period of time. It was sloppy, and the first thing everybody did was search Trump. They found fake BS phone tips. They found fake BS accusers who were brought by discredited journalists and so on, talking about bushes sucking poop out of babies' intestines and all this. It's just the most insane shit. Only shared the outside screenshot of the thing against Trump. Only shared page 1 of the thing against the Bushes, not page 2, because page 2 would have shown that it was discredited. And this is what we're dealing with. We've got all this disinformation. Meanwhile, we're actually winning as a country. We're actually winning hard as a country. And people don't want to hear it. They don't believe it. We keep having massive people, like amounts of people signing up for the Republican Party. We've had local leaders all over the country switch to the Republican Party because they're like, this Democrat Party is not the party that I remember. I mean, they obviously weren't paying close attention, but yeah, it's been happening at massive rates, and now people are freaking out because of the midterms. Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't care about the midterms. I've been pushing this at the end of my show. I try to mention, got to get out and vote, because we need to show up in numbers like we did in 2024 for the midterms. Your local elections are just as important as any election that you do nationally. These people have even more minute control over you currently. The perfect example of this, but before we get to the perfect example, I want to show you this. This is a new poll. Now, take this with a grain of salt. I always tell you. But Rasmussen reports, who have been claiming that Trump is just underwater on everything, from our competitor Insider Advantage, insider polling, looks like he's seeing similar upward presidential approval trend. Trump approval exceeds election victory margin in new Insider Advantage national survey. Approve 50%, disapprove 46%. And why do I tell you that I don't necessarily believe this? I think it's higher than that. I think he has more approval than that. People were calling out these posters because you'd look at the weights and you'd look at all this and that, and you'd notice that they were kind of slanting the people that they were talking to. There was things off with the polls when they were like, Trump's underwater. There's nothing that has changed from last week when they said he was, at 30% approval rating to this week. Nothing has changed. Nothing big has happened, except for maybe people are finally waking up to the fact, thanks to people like Michael Tracy and, people like me who have been, not spreading the conspiracy theory BS on Epstein because, the files are out and you can clearly see nothing happened that these people claimed. But that isn't going to make that kind of a jump, not a 20-point jump or more. I think that he's always been up, and they were attempting to do the voter suppression thing through polls like they always do, with Trump especially. And people called it out, and now they have to actually start at least somewhat reporting fairly on what's actually going on the ground here in America. So I just wanted to show you that really quick before I moved on to the other thing. One sec here, but this is what I wanted to show you right here. This is from Bill Mitchell. So here's the logical disconnect. Republicans are dominating on every major issue: the economy, immigration, crime, everything. And, you get people in comments, well, I can't afford meat. And you explain to them that that has nothing to do with Trump. There's nothing Trump can do about that in a year. We've had 50-year lows. I think it was my last video. I played somebody else's video that was explaining this. I've explained it to you and showed you the data myself a few times. But 50-year lows as far as how much cattle ranching goes on here, right? Fruits, well, okay, there's been diseases in fruits, specific fruits that were killing them out. Greening disease, I think it's called. There were weather factors that killed fruit. Same goes with coffee. I've told you numerous times, coffee's going to start coming down. Okay, so when you hear people say, oh, the American people can't afford things, well, if you live in California, that's probably true. And if you live in Virginia, you effed around and found out. We'll get to that in a second. But here we go. Conservative media is flourishing. Liberal media is going out of business. This is actually true. And yet posters tell us there's going to be a blue wave. I mean, the math just ain't mathin', folks. It looks like we're setting up for a red wave, not a blue one. Now, you have those who claim that well, don't claim, it's actually kind of true that generally the opposing party picks up more seats in midterms. Well, generally Republicans, right wingers, conservatives, whatever, tend to kind of stay home for those. But I'm not so sure that's going to happen this time, and I can tell you exactly why. You see, Virginia is the classic example of what we can expect if you elect Democrats in other places, okay? This is the national example of what you can expect. Take a look at what is going on in Virginia. If I can get to the dang post, I've got so many tabs, guys. It's not even funny. Okay, now I've passed it for sure. What we saw was they I'll just explain to you some of the things. They push electric everything on you. And then now Virginia wants to tax you for having electric yard equipment. So that doesn't really make sense. Where the hell is it? Good Lord, have mercy. Right here. All right, so this is what's going on in Virginia, and nobody has pity for these people. I don't. If you didn't show up and vote, and you're on the right, or you fell for this communist CIA agents rhetoric, where this is the same woman that like said, "Don't effing say socialism anymore. We got to get elected. People won't elect us with that, blah, blah, blah," something along those lines at some Democrat convention, okay? If you fell for this and you didn't do your research, how many times have I said on my shows that you got to research who you're voting for? But at this point, better red than dead, right, liberals? So that's where I'm at. You can't you can't keep electing the same party who taxes you and destroys your lives like these people do, and then expect people to feel bad for you when you find out. So here you go. Take a listen to this.
So can somebody please explain something to me? What the fuck is going on with energy in Virginia? Because something to me is just not making sense. Every single electric bill I'm getting is looking like this. This is how all my electric bills are looking. How is it humanly possible that I was using 1,500 and less kilowatts every single month in 2025, 2024, and 2023, but somehow I'm using 5,000 kilowatts of energy now in 5,000, 4,000, 4,000, 4,000 the last 4 months? Something doesn't make sense, bro. And every time I call Dominion Energy, they tell me that I'm tripping. I need somebody to help me understand how a human can use 5,000 kilowatts when I'm never home. Never home. I don't use TV. I don't use heat. I don't understand.
All right, and so this came from Eric Doherty. Breaking: mass amounts of Virginia voters are furious at elected Democrats after their electric bills surge by as much as 300% in a short time. I'm crashing the F out, bro. Trump warned them elections have consequences, and that's exactly what I am saying. And, they want to tax all the things they want to tax. Matter of fact, I think I actually have a list of, if you give me a sec here. Oh, I think I have it. There it is. Yeah. So let me get this brought up on a different thing here for us to take a look at. Because I got to be honest, it's actually kind of funny what's going on. I mean, it's not funny for the people of Virginia that didn't vote or showed up to vote the right way and now are suffering because of morons. But look at this. So this just explains that she took office. Now let's get to I think I read these on another show actually. Let's get to what these are. So to cap this off again, new higher income tax brackets for high earners. So they're going to chase out high earners with these tax brackets. All the business people, the people that create jobs and so on, they're out. They're going to leave and they're going to go to Florida. Delivery retail taxes targeting services like Amazon, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and FedEx, UPS. So now you also have to tip your driver, which, look, now you're going to have to pay extra taxes on your deliveries, including Amazon, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and so on. So you got to tip your driver for Uber Eats and DoorDash. Well, you don't have to. You could be a dirtbag and not do it. But now you're going to be paying extra. Do you think that some of these people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to tip this guy because of these taxes that I voted for? Sales and local tax expansions, additional local sales tax in counties, cities, e.g., for schools, transportation, which it never ends up at, it seems like. New sales tax on admissions for concerts, events, and fantasy sports. So if you want to go to concerts or special events, you got to pay an extra tax now. Expanded sales tax base to certain services. Gun related taxes, you do the math on that one. Other targeted new taxes: personal property tax on electric leaf blowers and landscaping equipment. Buy electric and save the environment so we can tax the fuck out of you after you do it. Taxes on dog walking, grooming, dry cleaning, vehicle, home repairs. So you can't repair your home without taxes. Counseling. So, when you have TDS, now you get to pay taxes on going to your counselor. Gym memberships. To be healthy, you have to pay taxes, buddy. Large employer tax. Hotel tax increases. Taxes on rideshare trips. So you can't even save money on ride sharing anymore. Vehicle repairs. You can't fix your vehicles, and more. And when he says and more, Grok is not kidding about the and more part, dude. That's just a short freaking list right there. So that's what you can expect, guys. When you elect Democrats, this is what they had planned. Had drunk Kamala won, they were going to tax the crap out of you, tell you how to live your life. That was the plan, and Trump stopped it. We stopped it. So that's why I laugh when people complain about tariffs, because it's like, oh, it's going to raise the cost by point this or that, or 1 point this or that. But then Trump's made it clear that his end goal is to get rid of taxes altogether. Oh, but you're still paying a tax through tariffs. Dude, stop. I'd much rather other countries be getting charged tariffs than me or anyone else having to pay for their labor to be taxed, so that these people can waste it on feminist monuments like our governor in Michigan did right off the bat when she took office. The same governor who ran on never raising taxes on gasoline and is now raising taxes on gasoline as of this year. These people are idiots. These people are absolute idiots, and people need to stop electing them. This isn't rocket science. I mean, it's just you can't keep. It's the definition of insanity. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't keep doing the same things over and over and not learning your lesson, unless you're a Democrat, and then it makes perfect sense. Here is another example. I'll leave you with this on this video. This is from my state of Michigan. This obvious white nationalist has a story to tell about something that happened in Michigan regarding somebody he knows and was going to have to hire because they were going to lose their job. This is coming again from Right Angle News Network. Let's just take a listen that they explain what he talks about. But let's listen to what happened here.
Got to share something really awesome with you guys that I just heard right now from a customer of mine who's also a part-time employee here too. She works for a toy factory, a little toy company in the next couple cities over. I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's here in Michigan. And the toy plant was closing down. And this next month was everybody's last month of work. And I was going to have to give this other girl here some extra hours just to help her get some more money because, they were shutting that plant down. Until Trump's tariffs forced a Canadian company to buy and build a factory here. So instead, they just bought this one out that was closing down and kept all the employees to avoid paying the tariffs. Thank you, Donald Trump. This is what I voted for.
And you can see this clear white nationalist is very happy to hear that. And that's how tariffs work. That's why I just laugh at people who want to complain about them and the little bit that they'll affect your life, especially once our taxes are reduced to nothing, which is the plan. I don't think he'll be able to get rid of the payroll tax forever, like just altogether. I think he'll be able to significantly reduce it, especially seeing that it's quickly paying down our deficit. But this all hinges on the Supreme Court, too. You got to remember that. It could get pretty hairy, guys, this summer when it comes to that, or this spring. I don't remember when exactly they're supposed to hear the case. But there you have it. That's how tariffs work. That's why they're important, and that's why we should have never walked away from those, only to tax the working class. Now I get socialists love the thought of taxing the shit out of the common worker, and then also taxing the shit out of the people who employ them. But that's not sustainable on any level. We just saw what happened in New York. If you didn't hear, you can check, I think, my last video or the video before that. You know, they're going to have to dip into the retirement fund and the rainy day fund, and they're going to have to raise property taxes. And guess what? You're not getting your free shit. Well, unless you're illegal, then you will. Anyway, guys, that's what I got for you in this video. Please leave a like on this if you can. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Consider giving me a subscribe. It only takes a second. And hey, later down the road, if you don't like what I have to say, unsubscribe. No skin off my nose, you know. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.